Hello and welcome. The most recent dev stream was pretty heavy. Lots of systems-oriented stuff and overhauls were discussed and revealed. I'm going to go through all of the highlights. I'm going to blow through a bunch of minor stuff and then dig into some more meaty changes a little bit later. Two things to keep in mind. One, everything is subject to change. Nothing is set in stone here. And two, we've got a much more detailed forum post that'll drop Monday, May 17th. If you're watching this after May 17th, I'll link a card up in the corner to the video that I inevitably do breaking down that forum post, as well as a link to that forum post in the description. What we're looking at right now are some bag customization changes. We'll be able to pick an icon for each bag, and the layout of the filters for each bag is going to be a little more streamlined. We'll be able to select multiple items in our bags at a time to make selling and locking things easier. And you'll also see that player name and title here are present over on this side. This is because we're going to see player titles implemented at some point as well. There will be an abilities tab, which will give brief explanations of what each hero's defenses and abilities actually do. You'll be able to select that ability or defense on this side and get an explanation of what it actually does on the other. As an example here, we have a flame burst tower that appears to be fused. So we see its damage over here and an explanation of what the tower actually does. And here is an example of the overcharge ability, again explained on this side. The text and numbers here, like this 150%, a lot of this stuff is placeholder. This 150% is not set in stone, and that's the stat that will be affected by your hero's stats, so this will scale. When you hover over an item attribute, it'll explain what that attribute does. In this case, it's lightning damage, the amount of lightning damage you deal with attacks. As you allocate stat points, you'll see what those points affect on the other side here. So in this case, adding attack will increase the DPS and lightning damage on weapon 1, the DPS and physical damage on weapon 2, and also the DPS and physical damage on your pet here. So you won't have to guess what these stats actually do. It'll display what stats are affecting what attributes. Either along with episode 1 or shortly thereafter, we'll be seeing the ability to customize the name of an item that we max the level of. This was a popular feature in DD1 and we'll be seeing it return in DDA. Okay, so here's where we dig into some of the more juicy stuff, the more substantial changes that are coming. Weapons are only going to have one damage type. You can see here that this weapon only has physical damage. They're just gonna have one damage type. No more physical and fire or physical and lightning or whatever like that, just one damage type. You're also gonna notice, probably you noticed right away, that we've got crit chance and crit severity. Those are new stats. These stats will be specific to swords and polearms. So we've got DPS, the damage type here, physical attack rate, crit chance, crit severity, normally crit damage in most games. The elemental effect, in this case, it's physical. And then we've got 3 stats here: vitality, attack, and a new stat called ability. Basically, skill and boost are going to be replaced with one stat called ability. The ability stat alone will scale all of your hero's abilities. In my opinion, this is a great idea. It simplifies things in a way that will make new players not go crazy trying to figure out if they should level skill or boost on their heroes. Particularly with the boost monk, this was a massive deal. I can't tell you how many times I had to tell new players which stat correlated to what ability because the wording is unfortunate. You've got tower boost and the skill stat scaling each other. It didn't make a lot of sense before. This looks much better. Another thing worth noting here is that we don't have any defense stats on this weapon at all. In episode 1, weapons will no longer roll with defense stats, and armor and accessories will no longer roll with hero stats. So all of your defense stats will come from your armor, your accessories, and some pets, as it was described, probably Mista Mines and giraffes on a treadmill, whereas your hero stats will come from your weapons, certain pets, and a new item type being introduced as offhand weapons. Every hero will have a unique offhand weapon. We already have one in the game for the Squire, his shield. It'll be an item pouch for the Huntress, a tome for staff-based heroes. A tome is like a big book, and a whetstone for polearm users. These offhand weapons will roll with hero stats just like these main hand weapons. A notable change to polearms is that projectile count will no longer be a stat roll on the polearm itself. It'll be based off of the strength of the weapon. By late game, every polearm will pretty much shoot 7 projectiles. As well, additional things will be added with boss weapons over time, and more weapons will be added in addition to the woodland set, which we already saw. So obviously this is a massive change, and if you're a mid to late game player and you're building out heroes, you may be wondering what's going to happen with your current gear as we transition into episode 1. Well, they do have a plan for that. With regard to your current gear, it was stated that your heroes will retain their current strength, but essentially they'll be able to function as hybrids. You'll still have the same defense power on your builders, but now they'll have only hero stats on their weapons. You'll still have the same DPS power on your DPS heroes, but you'll have only defense stats on their armor. It seems like they're going to try to convert the stats over in a way that keeps things equal somehow. Another big change will be the item effects system. It'll be a new system that will add effects to your items that can manifest in many ways. They can be additional stats rolled onto your items, like additional defense power on armor, or additional attack on your weapon or offhand. They can also be unique effects like boost attack rate, stun, irradiate, and detonate. These are 4 examples given, and there are going to be more than just these 4. Here we can see an example of these unique effects. We've got 2 on this sword here and 2 on this other one. We've got stun and boost attack rate on this one here, and irradiate and detonate on this one. Here we've got a more detailed explanation of those 4 in particular. For stun, your primary attacks have a chance to stun weaker enemies for a certain duration. For boost attack rate, your primary attacks have a chance to increase your attack rate by 15% in this case for 10 seconds. And for irradiate, your primary attacks have a chance to irradiate enemies for 10 seconds, dealing 2% of HP every, so that's a damage over time effect. That's pretty cool. That's what irradiate will be. And detonate, your primary attacks cause enemies to explode, damaging all enemies in a range, so that'll be a nice big AoE effect. So these are procced effects that have a chance of rolling onto your items. This will probably be a substantial piece of the big late game gear grind, where you're going for certain items to mix and match these item effects. These item effects won't be directly upgradable, but they will scale with weapon strength. Upon transitioning from the current update into episode 1, all of your gold from upgrading gear will be refunded, and you'll be able to re-upgrade your current gear as you see fit within the new parameters introduced in episode 1. They didn't show any screenshots of this, but we will be seeing new armor set bonuses too. They'll be similar to the bonuses from synthesized armor sets. You'll get a lesser bonus to your stats overall, and then another unique bonus. An example they mentioned on stream was a bonus that increases the amount of fire damage your defenses deal. There are a handful of these set bonuses coming. They're also creating hero weapon sets specific to certain heroes that will greatly increase the strength of one of their abilities and potentially add some utility to it. These sets will be composed of a main hand weapon and an offhand. In the case of the EVA, her set will be composed of a crossbow and a staff. Her set bonus in particular was called the Protean Cannon Mark II, which will greatly increase the damage of her hero boost beam ability and to also ensnare enemies. The idea emphasized heavily with these changes is adding options. It sounds like they want to make more playstyles viable, giving players the ability to play actively with a hero or play passively with a booster, or both. It sounds like they'd rather make playing actively as viable as boosting towers rather than nerfing the current boost meta. Finally, we've got some big changes coming to the hero deck. As you can see here, we've got 6 deck slots in total coming. From the recent DDA survey, it was discovered that 95% of players use 6 heroes. The new hero deck will be expanded to include 6 heroes in the deck. They're keeping controller players in mind for this. Keep in mind, everything is going to be calibrated properly. Controller players, if you're seeing this all as sort of a disadvantage or more stuff to map buttons to, they are keeping that in mind. For the hero deck in particular, they're going to add all 6 heroes to the radial menu. For hero deck bonuses, XP is earned equally by all heroes. That's already in the game. Set bonuses and item effects are only active in the hero deck. This is concerning. I'm really hoping this only applies to the unique effects, like how it is with fused defenses, and not the stat bonus on armor sets. They did mention that limiting bonuses and item effects to the hero deck also helps with some technical things that would have been an issue if these effects weren't limited to the hero deck when they're adding new content to the game. So limiting item effects to the hero deck kind of future-proofs this concept. What's currently known as the active builder bonus, a 33% damage bonus to hero defenses when you build and play with the same hero, will be applied to all heroes in the deck, but the percentage was not revealed. They're still testing for what that percentage should be. I'm fairly certain it'll have to be lower than 33%. The rogue, since he doesn't have any defenses, will get a bonus to his damage. Well, that's everything that was discussed. In a nutshell, again, a much more detailed explanation, and more stuff is coming in a more detailed blog post in a couple days, but this is what they talked about on the dev stream earlier. For what it's worth, overall, I think these changes are a really good thing, and I think they'll help to give the game more ease of access to early game players, and maybe some more longevity when we see what these abilities actually do. Hopefully they'll add some unique changes to things to the end game as well, and give us some stuff to go for. With the addition of new maps, new heroes, and new unique effects and abilities for sets, I think end game is going to change for the better. That is going to do it for me here. Any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. I've got links to my Discord and Twitch in the description. Feel free to stop by there if you're interested as well, and thanks for watching.